Hey guys, it's Vampire Mike from Sega CD Universe. So, I apologize if I'm speaking a little loud. I don't have a microphone, obviously, so I'm just trying to project a little better. I'm in a little bit of a different location, as you can tell. I'm in my wife's sunroom. It's just a kind of like a greenhouse, and this back wall has paneling, and everything else is glass. So I figured it would give me enough light to show off this painting I found. So I just wanted to talk a little. This is different than what I normally talk about. I know I'm normally a video game, movie guy, but I did want to talk about this because I thought it was pretty fascinating, really interesting, and unique. So I'm walking through the flea market with my buddy Alex and my wife, and we're looking at movies and video games and buying things, and I see this, and it's from a normal vendor that I've purchased from before. And Alex said, well, that painting makes me feel really uncomfortable. So I gave it a second look, and I said, I said, what's going on here? There's unicorns, this man's face is melting. I'm assuming it's a man. His face is melting. There's hair to the bottom and sides tied to the chair. He's got some polka dotted socks. He's holding scissors, so I was assuming he cut the hair. Some flowers and roughage up here. This here, I can't tell. It looks like a steak on the floor. If someone thinks this is something different, let me know, but to me it looks like a steak. And he's sitting on top of what looks to be the American flag, of course. So I take a picture of this, and I post it on Facebook, and I said, look what I found at the flea market, it's interesting, and people are chiming in. So I'm like, all right, that's cool. I thought that was pretty much the end of the story. My buddy who I met through Facebook Marketplace, who buys things off of me sometimes, said to me, can you go back and get me it? I'm interested. So I said, okay. So I go back. I asked the guy how much. He says $20. I haggle with him a little bit, but so $20, and I pick up this painting. I ask him if he knows anything about it. He says it reminds him of some kind of drum cover he has, and he thought it had something to do with a certain band. So I'm like, okay. I look at the back of it, and the back of it says, to Julia. Let me pull up the picture so I don't have to turn the painting around. For Julia, sitting in Frida's chair, Matthew Kirkis, 2011. So I now, being the nut job that I am, start researching who this person is. Matthew Kirkis, or AKA Kirkis, who has another band as well, I believe. I could be incorrect on this. Let me open up my thing here and pull it up. He's in another band as well called Floating Points. So he's in a band called Kirkis, and then he's in another band called Floating Points, and then I also linked him to something called, I don't know if I could find it now. I want to say it was like DJ something, Destiny 71Z. Now I don't know if that's his other band or something he was involved in, I'm not really sure. So I find Kirkis on Twitter and Facebook, and I drop him a message. And I say, did you paint this? And he says, oh my God, I did, where'd you find it? So he tells me a little backstory, which I'm going to share with you. I'm going to omit the names because I don't know if he would want that out there. I don't even think he really would want this video out there. So he was living, I think he's from London originally, but some of his profiles say Australia, so I don't know where he's originally from. He was in New York City. Looks like he was in some kind of a flat with friends, or staying at their house. He told me that the girl whose house it was is a supermodel now, that he doesn't really keep in touch with too much. He painted this, it says on the back 2011, so it's 8 years ago now. He gave it to the woman and her roommates as a gift for, I guess, letting him stay there. I don't know if it was an extended stay or a week or a couple days, but he had a lot of paintings in a video he sent me, so I'm assuming it was a pretty lengthy period of time. He said seeing the painting again gave him goosebumps, and that he never, I guess, thought he'd see it again. He says he's a much better painter now, and he didn't seem very fond of this, though I think it's very cool, and he's not giving himself enough credit. So my friend is supposed to pick this up today for me, so I wanted to do this video before releasing this out into the wild. Kirkis does, he's a painter, an artist, you know, and he does what I would probably consider experimental type, cyberpunk sounding, like futuristic computer music. It has, you know, elements of goth, so I do hear a little bit of a gothic sort of new wave feeling. It's pretty much, in the Kirkis band, it's pretty much just him with a guitar and then a bunch of machines around him. Pretty interesting sounding, I do like it. And in this other band he is in, Floating Points, it's also electronic, maybe not as chaotic as Kirkis by himself, but still interesting. I liked it as well. The Destiny, what did I say it was called? Destiny 71Z sounds different, so again, I'm not sure if that's particularly him. I'm going to open up his messages now, just to kind of go over some of the things he'd said. He said he's in London now. I said, I'm sorry, I'm assuming you gave this to somebody special, and didn't expect to hear about it being at a flea market. He said, no, not at all, it's a bad painting. How much was it? He said, sorry about the plane, guys. He said he just finished art school at Sydney College of the Arts. He moved to New York City and started studying at the Art Students League. He was interning for someone named John, who was a friend of, he says his name, but it doesn't mean anything to me. He was a friend of Robert Rockenberg. I don't know who that is. And then he started living with this supermodel near Bedford. He gave it to her to say thank you to her and her housemates, and understandably it got lost in the cycle of houses. It's not the best painting. My paintings are much better now, but wow, what a throwback. He appreciated me reaching out and said that the model friend of his had blown up and become a huge model at this point. The painting started as a study. It was a pre-idea for a bigger work. He then sends me a link to a YouTube video where he's showing more of the work, so I'll include that in the description. Sadly, the video doesn't have sound because it must have had music playing in the background, so YouTube took out the music. The reference to Frida Kahlo, which is an artist, I'm sure most of you know her name. I think he said is something to do with the chair because of there's roots in the chair. I don't know if he's talking about actual plant-like roots, or he's saying the chair has roots in what Frida Kahlo paints, because she paints chairs. He said he was changing in America, hence I guess the American flag on the floor. This was a young painting of his, and he was amazed that I found it. I asked him why the man's face was melting. He said this was supposed to be symbolic of him cutting his hair off and becoming like a new person, or making changes in his life in America, hence him cutting his own hair. I was under the impression originally that he was cutting the horse's manes off, but I guess this is just a painting maybe in the background of where he is. What else? He said he thinks that the face, from what he remembers, that he messed up on the face and decided to paint it sort of nonsensical to cover it up. I like to believe, even though he's the painter and he's definitely right, I think it's just sort of this sounds kind of artsy-fartsy, I know that, I'm not usually very artsy-fartsy. This is like a symbolic to me of, you know, the human emotion and him releasing all of these feelings through different colors in his face. But either way, it's interesting nonetheless. He said it was a wild time for me and for the people around him. He then starts sending me a couple pictures of his paintings. I told him I'm in Long Island in New York, so it's about an hour away from Manhattan by train. I said I kind of feel bad getting rid of it and giving it to my friend who wanted it now, but you know, he is going to pay me for it. He did want it. It was the reason I went back for it, even though I found it very interesting. He said his kids would like it because it's, you know, it's a strange piece. I told him I kind of wanted to do a video on YouTube about it. He said, nah, no need. Maybe if it were a better painting. So, you know, whatever. I mean, you know, he's obviously not fond of this piece. I think it's really interesting, but that's neither here nor there. He said it was spooky that I contacted him, that it gave him goosebumps, and then just this morning I had asked him if he was still involved with floating points, and that's about it. And then I checked out his band Kirkis, and that it was interesting. So, as I said, I know this isn't normally a type of video I do, let alone in this room talking about a painting. I do love art. I do enjoy art. I'm not big on, you know, artsy fartsy abstract stuff. Picasso is definitely not my jam. I'm more of a like Brahm, Frazetta, what's his name? Louis, is it Royo or I can't, his name's escaping me. I like the old kind of, I like the evil stuff. I like the barbarian, the Conan the Barbarian type stuff with the huge muscles and like the, you know, fantasy photos and things. I'm trying to think of who else I like a lot. There's quite a few, but I think like Frazetta is probably one of the main ones. So, you know, this caught my eye because of just the weirdness of it. I mean, you can't deny that it's a strange piece. There's a lot happening. You can break apart, you know, the hair, the chair, the American flag. Why is he sitting on it? You know, I guess that's something, you know, that's considered sort of disrespectful, but I think to him it was that because it's on the floor, but I think to him it was considered he was, you know, starting anew in America. Why is there what looks like to be a stake on the floor? The scissors, his face, the unicorns. I mean, why are there unicorns? Obviously unicorns aren't real. You know, their horns are painted in like a really colorful fashion. So there's a lot of stuff happening here. What is this pink thing on the floor? Did he drop a piece of the steak perhaps? Or is a piece of his pink face melting off? So it's kind of got a creepy vibe to it. I like it. I'm glad that my friend Daniel is picking it up later because I think him and his family will enjoy it probably for years to come. It's in pretty good shape. It mainly held up. There's a little chip here. Over here in the corner, some of the wood has cracked, but it's not the painting. It's like the frame. And then in the back, it's being held on by nails. And one of the nails fell out. Screws. One of the screws fell out. I'm sure Daniel could just throw a screw in the back to fasten that up a little bit. I didn't want to throw a screw in it that was a little too long, that perhaps went through the wood or the painting and screwed it up. You can see here in the corner it says Kirkis. I don't know if you could see that from this distance. But yeah, this was interesting. I think the gentleman I bought it from, as I said, I had purchased from him before. I think he said he had to go through his unit, so I guess he has like a storage unit with a bunch of stuff. What I'm guessing is this ended up at probably a storage unit somewhere after going from house to house. Maybe the person didn't pay the unit. This guy buys units and sells them at the flea market, and that sort of explains it. He's on Long Island, you know, maybe the units are in Brooklyn or Queens or whatever, Manhattan, and that's probably how it ended up here. So I bring to you the Kirkis Unicorn American painting. One more thing I wanted to add before I go. This reminded me of Kurt Vonnegut. So that was the reason it caught my eye, because Kurt Vonnegut does a lot of stories about like Americana, but with like this darkness to them, and they're weird, and there's always like quirky characters. Thank You, Mr. Rosewater, was that one of them? The Cat's Cradle. What's his other? Slaughterhouse 5 is one of my favorites. What's the other one? The Breakfast of Champions, which is also a movie. So is Slaughterhouse 5. So it reminded me of a Kurt Vonnegut-esque piece, even though Kurt Vonnegut, I don't know if he did. I don't think Kurt Vonnegut painted, but he might have. Sort of reminded me of something like that. So that's what caught my eye and why I liked it. So welcome to the world of Kirkis. I'm going to put some links down in the description to the video he sent me, some of his music, what you heard in the intro. So, you know, you heard a snippet of in my intro today. And let me know what you guys think. I just think it's interesting. I love the story and the history of finding out about things and, you know, talking to people about what it meant to them, or in this case, what it meant to Kirkis, or where he was in his life when he painted this. it's sort of the adventure and the journey sometimes more than the end, because the end of this is this going to my friend. So that's the journey of me painting at the flea market, and you know what it meant to me, and how I got in touch with Matthew Kirkis, and how interesting it was. So thank you, Kirkis, for responding to me and giving me some little tidbits of information to talk about in this video. I hope you blow up with your music and your art, and I look forward to more of your work in the future. As I said, I've followed you on Facebook now, and YouTube, so I want to see all your stuff. Thanks, guys, for watching. It's Vampire Mike from Sega CD Universe. Be good.